A few days back, Terrace announced that the last episode of The Owl House, Watching and Dreaming, is finally done, and she confirms that it will air on April 8th, which means we are less than 1 month away until the show officially ends. Not only that, however, the series finale of The Owl House also marks the end of an era for Disney TVA. For the past decade or so, Disney has greenlit and aired a good amount of story-driven cartoons, with Gravity Falls being the first one to start off this era, and more shows followed suit, like Star vs. the Force of Evil, DuckTales, and of course, Amphibia and The Owl House. Even supposedly more episodic shows, like Milo Murphy's Law, incorporated story-driven elements during the time when it was still airing. However, for the past few years now, Disney has ended most of these aforementioned shows, either due to the creator's own choice or because they preemptively cut them short. As most of you know, The Owl House is the case of the latter. With this era of Disney cartoons coming to an end, we do have to ask ourselves, what is next for Disney TVA? To be clear, I am aware that other networks have and can make cartoons of their own that fill in the gaps, story-driven or not. But if I'm going to be completely honest, none of the shows outside of Disney right now have much of my interest. The only non-Disney cartoon that I'm mildly interested in that is still in production is Rick and Morty. And even that show has an uncertain future due to a recent scandal with one of its creators. The state of cartoons overall deserves its own video for another time, but when it comes to Disney, what do they have in store once The Owl House ends? The good news is there are plenty of shows to come out for the network, and some of them are already airing. For example, there is The Ghost and Molly McGee, which aired its first episode back in October 2021, and its season 2 is set to air relatively soon. Out of all the cartoons that are set to come out soon, this is the show that I'm looking forward to the most. The show has an interesting premise, great characters, rather good comedy, and a unique looking animation style. Also, the show still incorporates continuity and has story arcs revolving around how Molly's friendship with Scratch can cause major disruptions with the ghost world and their hometown of Brighton. Season 2 is expected to expand more on this element by introducing new characters and story arcs that elevate the stakes of the show. With that being said, it is still and likely won't be as story-driven or serious as Amphibia and The Owl House. The tones of these shows are very different from each other. From the beginning, Amphibia had a goal in mind with its protagonist, which is for Anne to find her friends and get back home. With The Ghost and Molly McGee, the show does not have a clear objective for the protagonist to achieve. I guess technically the goal is for the characters to learn how to get along with each other in new situations, but that is a given for every show, story-driven or episodic. So as much as I and some others like to see the show become the next sleeper story-driven show like what Amphibia was, that is unlikely to happen. Still, I highly recommend people should watch it. It may not be the next Amphibia, but it does not have to be. The show looks promising with how funny it is on its own, and it's nice to just watch a run-of-the-mill slice-of-life show that happens to have a paranormal twist to it. But if that show is not enough for you, there is another show that I think fills in the gap better, which is Moon Girl and the Devil Dinosaur. I only watched the first episode, so I can't make a full opinion on the show yet, but as far as I can see, it looks very promising. The show has a very interesting premise, the main character is very fun, smart, and quirky. Sound familiar? The comic book-esque animation stands out very well in a good way. Most significantly, this show is story-driven, like the previous era of cartoons. So even without watching the rest of the show, I still recommend you guys check it out and at least give the show a chance. However, as great as the show appears, the reason why I'm not as excited for it compared to other people is because it is based on an existing Marvel property. To be clear, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I mean, I still enjoy most of the MCU movies, even though they are essentially recreations of pre-existing Marvel comics. But generally speaking, I prefer new stories with new characters and settings that are not outright based on existing IP. This is partly why I say we are reaching an end of an era. While there are other shows to look forward to in the coming year and onwards, and I'll surely cover them when I get the chance, they are just inherently different from what I have seen from Disney in previous years. This new era of Disney cartoons are going to mostly consist of episodic shows like The Ghost and Molly McGee, Big City Greens, and Hamster and Gretel. And it will also feature recreations/reboots of existing properties like Moon Girl and Phineas and Ferb. I'm sure these shows will be very successful for Disney, and people will watch and enjoy them, including me. But with these shows, Disney is basically playing it safe for the foreseeable future, which is a rather unfortunate thing to see. By playing it safe, none of the shows in this new era are likely to capture the same magic that made shows like Gravity Falls, Amphibia, and The Owl House so great and beloved by so many people. These three shows push the boundaries of what a Disney cartoon can show in terms of storytelling, which is impressive given the limitations that the company placed upon the creators. In other words, these shows took risks, and while they may not have lasted as long because of that, they managed to create large communities of loyal fans, and that is something that will be hard to achieve for these new shows. But who knows, I could be wrong about that, and I hope I am, to be honest. We'll just have to wait and see how this new era for Disney turns out. In the meantime, what do you guys think about these new Disney cartoons? Are you excited, skeptical, open-minded, or just unsure about them? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, thank you to those who support this channel through YouTube memberships, along with everyone else who watches these videos. Anyways, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one.